Hello there, I'm Lady Loy on Gold Standard Radio, and I tend to talk on different platforms. I do that because I have kind of attracted a certain audience on Black Bright News. And Gold Standard Radio, I want that to be a bit more personal. And so things to do with myself, things to do with music. If I feel that something could relate to international artists coming to the UK, I'll mention that. So that's why I do things on different platforms, just in case you were wondering. Now, I wanted today to talk to you today about something that I kind of feel, and sometimes it's the what's not said sometimes, what is said out loud, and how it affects me as a black woman. So, another story. Am I black enough? I remember the moment clearly, even though it looked like nothing. I was standing in front of the mirror, late. I'm just seeing how much time I've got, sorry. Even though it looked like nothing. I was standing in front of the mirror, late for somewhere, trying to decide whether to change my hair. Not because I didn't like it, I did. It was bold, a little flamboyant, joyful even. But there was a pause, a hesitation that didn't come from taste or comfort. It came from anticipation. I could already hear the comments that hadn't been spoken yet. You're becoming too Western. No one was in the room with me, but somehow they were all there. And that's the thing about criticism. When you've heard it long enough, it doesn't need an audience anymore. It learns how to speak to you in its own voice, or in my voice. I stood there longer than I needed to, weighing a decision that should have been simple. I realised something quite unsettling. I wasn't choosing between hairstyles. I was choosing between ease and acceptance. That was the moment I understood how these expectations work on black women. Not loudly, not violently, but persistently, like water wearing down a stone. Growing up, I learned early that how I showed up mattered more than how I felt. That presentation wasn't personal, it was communal. That my body carried a meaning, whether I agreed to it or not. Hair wasn't just hair. Makeup just wasn't makeup. Clothes weren't just clothes. They were messages, statements, evidence. So I learned to anticipate judgment before it arrived, to pre-edit myself, to smooth out anything that might invite commentary. Not because I lacked confidence, but because confidence has consequences when you're a black woman. The comments usually came softly, often from people who loved me. You know, back home, we wouldn't do that, you know. You're losing your culture. We never raise you like this. No one said it angrily. And that's what made it harder to resist, because how do you push back against concern? How do you explain that something inside you is shrinking, not because you're ashamed, but because you're tired? Tired of defending joy, tired of translating yourself, tired of carrying the responsibility of being a good example at all times. Over time, those comments begin to do something subtle. They make me doubt not just my choices, but my instincts. I'd feel excited about something and then immediately question it. I'd feel confident and then search for where I might be wrong, second-guessing myself. I'd feel at home in myself and then wonder if that home was legitimate. And that doubt didn't stay in the mirror. It followed me into rooms, into conversations, into how much space I allowed myself to take. I didn't stop being expressive, I just became cautious about it. What I didn't realise then was that this doubt wasn't personal. It was inherited. It was the echo of generations being told there was a right way to be black, a proper way to be African, a safe way to exist without inviting punishment or exclusion. Colonization did take a land. It taught surveillance. It taught self-monitoring. It taught us to watch ourselves so closely that eventually we did the policing for them. And black women became very good at that. Very good at reading the room. Very good at adjusting. Very good at carrying contradiction quietly. But something happens when adjustment becomes a habit. You start to forget what you actually like, what actually feels good, what actually belongs to you. The turning point didn't come as confrontation. It came as tiredness. One day, standing in that same mirror, I realized I was exhausted by constant negotiation. Exhausted by the idea that my authenticity could be revoked by someone else's discomfort. And I asked myself gently, not angrily, what if this isn't betrayal? What if this is just me responding honestly to the life I'm living? That question didn't change everything overnight, but it created a space. Space to notice when joy arrived before doubt. Space to sit with a choice without immediately justifying it. Space to trust that my connection to my culture wasn't that fragile, because culture that can't survive evolution isn't culture, it's performance. And Africa, real Africa, has never been afraid of expression. Adornment, colour, experimentation, reinvention, these are not Western inventions. They are language older than names we use now for them. I wasn't becoming less African. I was becoming less afraid. Healing, I learned, doesn't always look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like relief, like exhaling after years of holding yourself still, like letting your choices be ordinary again, like allowing your reflection to meet your gaze without interrogation. I still hear those echoes sometimes, but they're quieter now. And when they show up, I don't argue with them. I don't fight them. I just remind myself. I don't owe my heritage restriction. I don't owe my culture, my silence. I don't owe anyone a version of myself that costs me peace. I'm constantly saying, don't try to steal my joy. I'm simply choosing myself and trusting that what lives in me is older, deeper, and stronger than anyone else's expectations. And for the first time in a long time, that choice feels like home. So I hope you can relate to my story. It's not one of a victim, it's one of a victor. And sometimes we have to not be afraid to be ourselves. Sometimes we have to override the criticism, not with defensiveness, but with confidence and conviction that we know who we are. So many times we are so defensive. You know, somebody says, oh, I don't like this, or you're too fat, or you're too skinny, or you're too dark, or you're too light, or your hair too thick, or your hair too straight, or whatever they come up with. They're projecting, and it has nothing to do with you. You just need to hold yourself firm, believe in who you are, know where you come from, know where you belong, and stand by that. And that's all I've got to say for now. I hope this was helpful. Take care now. Bye-bye.